The beginning of Phase 5 for the MCU is just around the corner, and today we're going to cover everything you need to know before you watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania this Friday. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I'm your host, Chris. And today we're going to be diving into the different directions, the pages, the corners of the MCU that will bring us to what will be Quantumania, the true introduction of Kang the Conqueror, or at the very least, a variant of this evildoer who will be the looming big bad for the MCU throughout the remaining multiverse saga. And since we're only just jumping into the beginning of Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, there are a lot of different moving pieces that you probably need to catch up on. So we're going to jump into all of them in today's video. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie television news updates happening daily here on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those can be found in the description down below. So, like with all MCU projects, these connect to the crazy continued universe, which now has multiversal implications, and there will have been a few projects you're going to want to have seen, or notes you're going to want to have understood prior to your watching of this, the third Ant-Man. On that list, there are some very obvious ones, like this first one, Ant-Man, the original, where it all began for Paul Rudd in the MCU. This was an epilogue to Avengers: Age of Ultron, and this solo film introduced a new hero to everybody, Ant-Man. He would go on to become a very important character in the Endgame finale, bringing back half of the snapped away universe, since he was the one who understood how the quantum realm worked, which allowed the Avengers to time travel, which is what we understood it to be. We now know they were actually creating different timelines, different universes in the multiverse that the TVA, ran by He Who Remains, would then go and cut out, so there weren't any other Kang variants. It does get pretty big and pretty confusing, but the quantum realm, as we're about to see Quantumania, was a huge Kickstarter for all of that, and Ant-Man was the guy who understood that. You also might want to have seen Captain America: Civil War, where we really learned some of the roots of Ant-Man as he got to be a Avenger, which is a really cool instance, and it also connects him to a lot of different characters and gives you a really good understanding of who Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, Scott Lang, truly is. This is also a very interesting time for the MCU, as it is when the Civil War breaks apart Iron Man and Captain America and their respective teams, leaving them vulnerable and ultimately open for defeat from Thanos when he does attack each team separately, one time in space with Iron Man and one time in Wakanda with Captain America and those who were on Earth. In fact, we even learn more in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness regarding exactly this, where we see that Earth 838 and the Illuminati were able to quickly and swiftly defeat Thanos on Titan, and had our universe, which was referred to as 616 in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, been together and not separated during Civil War, they might have actually had the strength and the ability to defeat Thanos the first time around, and Endgame never actually would have happened. Now, if Endgame never happened, they never would have had to go back in time. Loki never would have escaped when they were trying to get the Tesseract. He never would have made it to the TVA, escaping all of their attempts to delete him from the existing multiverse, eventually leading to Sylvie and Loki killing He Who Remains, opening up the multiverse, and here we are in Phase 5. So all of these little details do eventually contribute to the overall creation of the continuation of the MCU and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. You also probably would have want to have seen the sequel to Ant-Man, Ant-Man and the Wasp. The sequel actually pressed pause on the MCU. A lot of this had nothing to do with what was going on. Avengers: Infinity War eventually did catch up because the post-credit scene left Ant-Man in the quantum realm. Now, we just talked about all of this and the Endgame implication and how that really opened up the multiverse and allowed us to get where we were, but the overall story of the MCU otherwise wasn't really pushed in the sequel to Ant-Man. In fact, it's often made a joke that Ant-Man isn't really an integral or important character, other than the fact that a rat let him out of the quantum realm and we went into the quantum realm. However, moving into Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, we know we're going to have an Avengers level movie where we're going to be introduced to a big bad, and any other sequels to Ant-Man will only give us more information about the character, his daughter, his situation, and his story. Now, we did pretty much just talk about Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War and how that's all really going to help you understand where the MCU is at right now. If you've never seen those movies before, well, pause this video right now, stop what you're doing, and go watch them. They are what I would think is considered some of the greatest cinematic finales of all time to what was the Infinity Saga. They gave us a really amazing closure on what had been several separate trilogies in the creating, including the Avengers trilogy, Iron Man, Captain America, the first two movies from Ant-Man, and many others. And you're going to want to have seen those movies just for the sake of watching them. But for Ant-Man, like I mentioned, it does bring us to the multiverse. And I walked through the entire domino effect of Loki getting away, going to the TVA, He Who Remains dying. This has been confirmed as the moment that has allowed Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and any other multiverse implied actions to happen. Loki escaping and killing He Who Remains. He Who Remains was holding a sacred timeline. He explains all of this very well, but if you aren't up to date, I'll let you know, Loki Season 1 should definitely be on your what should you know before you watch Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Because He Who Remains from the finale, who was the secret big bad from the Loki series, had a sacred universe. One timeline, everything else was controlled by the TVA. Anytime some type of variation created itself, whether from the Avengers traveling time, or any other outlying event that eventually left the splitting of the universe, which is what creates the multiverse, the TVA was sent out by He Who Remains to delete that existing multiverse. So from the time of Iron Man all the way up to Loki Season 1, there existed only one universe. After Loki ends and Sylvie kills He Who Remains, the multiverse starts to open and we see the different timelines emerging. This will lead to multiple different Kangs, many different scenarios, and we even see at the very end of Loki Season 1 that a different Kang who had replaced the different statues with a statue of himself had taken over the TVA. Now, the purpose of the TVA is kind of unclear, since originally the TVA existed outside of time as a singular unit created by He Who Remains to keep other Kangs from emerging. But now that more Kangs have emerged, what does that really mean? For the TVA? We're yet to find out, although we hear they'll be involved in Deadpool. But for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, it means that there is another Kang, possibly 2 or 3 or 4 that are going to be showing up in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and definitely multiple who will be showing up throughout the remaining 5th and 6th phases of the multiverse saga. So it's really important for you as a fan of MCU or a newcomer to the MCU to understand that the multiverse exists because of Loki Season 1 and the killing of He Who Remains. Everything prior to that required or had zero multiverse. There was one singular universe. Everything beyond that point allowed the multiverse to exist because of the passing of He Who Remains and the opening of the TVA and the multiverse, which now there are several branches of. So this is all very important for anybody to understand as they're about to see Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. And even though we don't know the implications of everything that Kang's arrival will show us from this movie moving forward, we do know that absolutely Kang is the big bad of the MCU. So understanding as much of him as possible, even though we have limited information of his presence in the MCU outside of just Loki Season 1, we know that moving forward, wherever Kang goes, trouble will follow. Whether that is in the form of different Kangs, Avengers from different universes, or even just our Avengers, or whatever's left of them at this point, trying to hunt down this formidable force and taking him out. It will soon become very clear, however, that Kang cannot simply just be defeated, because behind every Kang is a worse Kang, a scarier Kang, a more capable Kang, and the many rumors of the Council of Kang, which in the comics is a group of Kangs who oversee the overall success of Kangs across several different universes. For this very reason, having Kang, the big bad of the MCU, appear early on in Phase 5 and multiple times throughout, hopefully, is a very exciting way to handle a big bad in the new saga. Previously, with Thanos, we only got a couple post-credit scenes, cut moments, and kind of hints towards the eventual coming of Thanos and the Infinity War. Whereas Phase 1, Project 1, we have a big, huge Kang moment. So I'm excited to see where they litter Kang across the remaining MCU projects up until we get to Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, which, by the way, is now rumored to be possibly a 2-part project. So Secret Wars Part 1, Secret Wars Part 2, and Kang Dynasty, of course, which will have Kang win, ultimately, probably collapsing all of the multiverse into one universe, where we will see different variants living together in one singular plane, probably living out some type of battle world scenario, until inevitably and hopefully the good guys win and Kang ends up deleted from history, from the world, from any type of multiverse, or a new Kang is reinstated as He Who Remains and has the proper desire to keep other Kang variants from ruling the multiverse. Regardless, we're in for a pretty wild ride in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which releases February 17th. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, be sure to check out and get ready for it, because Kang is coming, Phase 5 is coming, the multiverse is already here, and there is a lot more for us to learn about the multiverse saga, starting off with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section down below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. The community or myself will be more than happy to help you out. And I hope you're excited for the new Marvel blockbuster release, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell. Like the video if you found it helpful, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.